In a town soft bed, does he know how they can